we don't really do a lot of ball sports here. And I think one of the reasons why they enjoy wakeboarding and surfing and hiking and doing some of the stuff that I like to do is because I didn't force it upon them. And, if I know a lot of dads out there, they're like, hey, I love this, and so you'll love this, and pushing. And as you guys know, what you resist persists. I took the attitude of, hey, we don't want to wakeboard, you don't want to wakeboard. Or if they were in the mood and they said, I don't want to surf today, then it's like, all right, fine, let's not surf today. And lo and behold, now they want to do it. And I swear if I was jamming it down and saying, no, we're going to do this today, I wouldn't have kids that do the things that I like to do.
So I jab and release. I'm a little in between because I had always wanted a little bit extra push. I was a good athlete, and I played a little JUCO ball, but I was able to quit things because my mom could have cared less what I was doing as long as I was home. So I was able to quit my freshman basketball team. I was able to drop out of boxing. I was able to do these things that had I had somebody, in my ear, kind of like what I do for you guys is that accountability, I might have been able to get a little bit further. So, my son plays baseball and football. He gets up some mornings, 4:35 a.m. and trains, and you guys have seen those videos. So I jab, I release, I jab, I release, always knowing, look, if you don't want to play football or baseball after the season, and we ask him every year at the end of the season, you don't have to. And, he loves those sports on his own.
Right on. What else?
All right, guys. Yeah, so talking about the Grand Canyon, that was probably the greatest trip we ever went on. And we've been, a lot of places from Hawaii to New York. My son went to Lebanon with mom and Europe. But that trip to the Grand Canyon with my son last summer was epic. It was like I'll remember that for the rest of my life. He will too. He was the youngest dude on the trail. Once we got into the statistics that only 1% of the people actually go down into the hole and actually see the Colorado River, it kind of gave him a little bit more juice as we were hiking. And, we spent 3 days down there in Phantom Ranch. Oh, so that is an amazing experience that is still to this day one of the greatest of my life, and I know it is him as well. What places have you guys gone to or taken your kids that I need to put on my calendar or my map for next summer?
Oh, man, I've got one that my boy still talks about. When we actually I told him we were going to go to Thailand because my wife Natalie had been there. She loved it. She always wanted us to go. And I've always been a big, like, if we say we're going to do something, if I give my word, that's huge. And I never ever want to, be a liar to my boy. And the year we said we were going to go, I forget something happened with the business, but it was, I don't want to say catastrophic, but something huge was going on where we just couldn't go. So I went and I kind of asked permission and said, son, is there any way we could do it next year? And I promise you, come hell or high water, next year we're going to go to Thailand. And he was really sad, but he kind of let me out of my word, so to speak. And then the next year, we were actually selling our business for me, what was a lot of money. And the close date was really close to the we were supposed to go to Thailand. And I told the guy who's buying the business, I said, I'm going to be in Thailand these 3 weeks, whether you own the business, whether you owned it for a day, or whether you walk away from the deal, Thailand's happening. And we closed a week beforehand, and I wasn't able to give him the training I kind of hoped to, but I told him that day one, that's going to happen. And we went, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. And my boy still talks about it. We still have kind of inside jokes that happened there, and he loves it. He's absolutely going to go back. So that's just like you said, that I forget what it costs. I forget just about everything else, but I'll be 60, 70 and remember taking my boy on that trip. It was awesome.
That's very cool. I did Thailand after I got married in 2004. I had been living a life that wasn't adequate to getting married and having kids. So my wife had a friend that said, hey, look, you got to send him to Phuket. Let him go to this island and fast. I literally did not eat a thing for 10 days. And it was the longest I've ever gone. It was emotional. It was physical. It was mental. It was spiritual. And my wife was pregnant at the time. So I did that on my own. I did that journey. I took that journey down and traveled. Obviously, it's a long trip to get down there. And I stayed in a hut for 10 days trying to figure out what was going to go on next in my life and how I was going to take care of not only one other person, but two. And it was a game changer for me. I haven't been down there since, but it was amazing.
Well, I did it wrong because we went down there and I ate everything. But we were in Phuket. It was awesome.
Awesome. So I'll tell you what I'll share is Trish and I heard this a long, long time ago, Trish, my wife, that our kids would get to pick any trip they want to go on when they turn 13. And so, my daughter being 15, we wanted to go to New York. And so
how did you come up with 13? Where'd that come from?
I don't know where 13 came from, but we heard it from someone else a few years ago, and we thought that would be really cool. And so the kids don't do it with anyone else. I suppose if they wanted to go as a family, they could. But, they get to pick anywhere they want to go. So Tori picked New York, and they went to New York. Carson's 11. So right now he's like kind of within a couple of years of starting to think where he wants to go. And then we'll have to find out if we're going to take him, just Trish and I, or if he wants to take the family, or if he wants to go with just me. But we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, my wife and I got to shoot out to Maui a couple weeks ago. We didn't take the kids. And, being from Hawaii and being raised out there, the second my son was born, he was 2 weeks old, I took him out there without mom because I was so excited to put him in the ocean, put him in the water. So, we've been to Hawaii at least, 6 or 7 summers in a row now with the kids. So last week or 2 weeks ago, they couldn't go, and they were pissed. They had to go to grandma's house in Palm Springs. And that was like, hell on earth because we got to go to Maui. So we didn't send them photos. We didn't do any videos. We just kept it kind of quiet. We got to get away for 3 or 4 days, and we're going to take them back in October. But
I can't help but notice I got an invitation on that one. I'm still waiting for my invite. Is it clearly in the mail or?
Listen, I tell people all the time, you can go to Hawaii or you can go to Hawaii with me. And there's a big difference from the time you step off the plane to the time you get back on. I got a lot of friends and family out there that it's pretty amazing to go and, know it from the other side versus the tourist side. So, hey, October, fall break.
All right, writing it down.
So, guys, being a dad is extremely important, especially in this society, this day and age. What words of wisdom would you have for somebody out there who's either becoming a dad or possibly growing up without one? I know my nephew right now is kind of growing up with a dad who's present, but he's not really doing the things that he needs to do. And one of those biggest things is, being not only there for your kid, but, being involved. And I kind of touched upon this the other day on Periscope, but being engaged and how much more important that is than present, right? If we look at, 2 hands and they're both in the same room, this one here is engaged, right? And this one here is just present. And how can we get people to understand, or how do we get these men who have been given the gift of fatherhood to, do and go the extra mile?
Well, I got to say, one of my favorite kind of dad stories I heard was, it's a true story. They were interviewing 2 kids that had an alcoholic father who, bad dad, drank all the time. And they asked the first kid, they kind of followed up with him, and he was an alcoholic. And they said, what caused this in your life? And he goes, look, you see my dad, I really didn't have any other choice. If you look at my dad, alcoholism was really the only option I had. And his brother, who grew up in the exact same environment, never touched alcohol, and asked him the same question. So why don't you drink? And he goes, what other choice did I have? If you look at the situation that I've got, there's no way I could drink after seeing what my dad did. So for those guys like Luke and whoever's listening that don't have a dad, I think you kind of get to use that as an excuse maybe for the first 10 or 15, maybe 20 years of your life. But at some point you got to be a man and say, my dad did or didn't do this, that, or the other, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to choose to make that a positive thing in my son's life as opposed to be a victim and say, well, I can't be. My dad wasn't present, so that's a pass for me not to be present.
Good story.
Yeah, growing up with a single mom, we used to celebrate Father's Day. I would get my mom a Father's Day card on Mother's Day.
Oh, that's really. I feel like a jerk. I never got my mom a Father's Day.
So all the single moms out there, you guys are doing an amazing job. I couldn't imagine being a single parent. I know how much work it is, how hard it is. And it's like the little things that we take for granted, right? Like pickups and drop-offs, or washing our daughter's hair, which we pretty much Rochambeau about because it is a lot harder than washing our son's hair. So all those little things that, are so much easier when there's a partner are not there when you have a single parent. And, my heart goes out to all those single parents out there because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work raising kids.
Yeah. One thing I would probably mention is not to compare ourselves to other fathers. I think everyone's given a certain gift, or they're given a certain way that they would raise. And I think really in life, comparison is probably problematic in any situation. But to look at another dad and say, oh, I wish I did that, or I wish I was more like that, rather than looking inward and saying, okay, what gifts do I have? What's the relationship I want to build? And just focusing on those things. The other thing I would say is, quality time versus time. And I think you said, being engaged. And I think it's important to look for those little moments where you think, this is shaping up to be a moment, and I'm going to put the phone away and I'm going to capture this moment, because it could be a 10-second moment that they'll remember for the rest of their lives, versus trying to plan this big extravagant trip that they'd be like, oh yeah, God, we went to the Grand Canyon, because we wanted the Grand Canyon to mean something, but it wasn't meaningful. Whereas there could be just a comment, or there could be just an exchange, even in the car, that's not quality time, but yet it's remembered for the rest of their lives. So, I kind of keep a filter up for those moments.
Yeah, we always try and do little fun, stupid stuff that just me and my boy would do, like dumb things. Like we did 100 of them that we always had kind of inside jokes, and my son loves it. So like there'd be this house we drove by. I don't even know how it started, but we drive by, it's kind of by our house. There's this big mansion up on the hill right by our house. Every time we drove by it, the joke was that was Caleb's house and he was renting it out to other people. And we drive by and check on it and stupid stuff. But every time we drive by that, it's 10 years old. He'll still look at that. Or we'll play the license plate game where we give California, if you find a California plate, that's worth like a point. Like Texas, that's worth like 3 or 4 points. And they're just random, right? You make them up the farther away it is, the more points. And he's 17 now, and we'll still be, I'll still look, or he'll text me a picture of an Alaskan license plate and be like, Dad, that's 10 points. So it's little stupid stuff like that they don't think of is a ton of fun, and it's just cool when they're old and they still kind of remember. I'm looking forward to being 30 and driving by that house and be like, boy, your house is looking good, or whatever the case may be.
All right, so it's funny you should mention that. So, a lot of people play the Volkswagen game where you hit the Volkswagen for 1 point.
Slug bug, right?
So how my daughter plays, in our whole family, but my daughter's really the kind of the ringleader here, is that a VW is worth a VW bug is worth 3 points, and I'm sorry. Let me start. A VW is worth 1 point.
Wait, should we be writing this down?
Yeah, write this down. Get the pen. A VW is worth 1 point. If it's a bug, it's worth 2 points. Anything that's convertible is worth an extra point. So a VW bug convertible is 3 points, and vans are worth 4 points. But here's the kicker. If you point out a car and it turns out it's not a bug, that's a point deduction. We
do the same thing. If you miscall a license plate,
well, you really gotta you gotta figure it out. But what's fun is it's anyone's game, even from school to home. You can there's swings sometimes of 10, 14 to 3, and then you can see, particularly where we live, you can see 3 convertible bugs. Bam, there's 9 points. We don't see a lot of buses, but man, you go over to California and it's VW bus central. And, there were games that were like 42 to 33 in California, and, we're laughing and hitting each other and whatnot. So, there again, right? That's not expensive. You don't have to go far. You just have to recognize an opportunity to make a moment.
Now that window of opportunity.
With your kids having bruises up and down their arm. Now it was play. I'm sorry. I feel bad, Mark. That was on me.
One-on-one time is really important too. That's one of the topics that I had for today is when you have multiple kids, if the 4 of you always go out or the 2 kids and you always go out, you don't get that intimate one-on-one time that becomes really valuable. It's because, I have a son and a daughter, and my son is pretty type A, alpha dominant. So sometimes he will do things to, push Sissy out of the way, whether he means to or not. So that one-on-one time is extremely valuable, especially having a daughter, because they are so different. We got Joe Johnson coming on in. Joe, come on in, my man.
What's up? Crap, I got bumped to the bottom spot again. Come on. What's going on?
How y'all doing?
Hey, Joe. Relax. Relax. Where are you calling from?
I had to jump into this blab, man, about fathers. I'm laying here with my little son trying to get him to go to sleep. But this is awesome, man.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That's cool. So where are you calling in from?
Florida.
Oh, okay. So what time is it there? 10 o'clock?
Yep, 10 o'clock. Yep.
Time to go to bed.
Hey, I'm trying. He was dozing off, so I was like, man, go to sleep so I can hop on this blab. But I figured I'd just get on anyways.
Right on.
I know you could bring cute kids on. I have my kid on here. I didn't know that was legal. Come on, Joe. You're stupid.
Yeah, we might have to make this a recurring show here, and part of it will be, bring your kid to Blab Day on this.
Bring your kid to Blab. That's funny. I put my kids in.
Bring my little boy in here because I got a 1 week old. He's adorable. He's a week old, right?
Yeah, bring him in, Mike.
All right, I'm texting.
So Mike's got. How old is Caleb now?
Caleb's 17.
He was 17-year-old and a 1 week old.
Yeah, I'm not all that bright.
Yeah, so I took all three of my kids and I put them in the laundry room and locked the door because I was on this call.
That's just good parenting.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I got the deadbolt on today before this went down so that they wouldn't come in here. Joe, is that your first child?
No, I have an older son. He'll be 3 on Saturday, actually.
Okay.
Right on.
And what is the highlight so far in these 3 years?
I think for me, the highlight is just getting slapped in the face so you wake up in the morning.
Not getting peed on.
Oh, I got peed on and shat on, all kind of stuff. But it's beautiful. It was tough at first, but hey, I mean, I couldn't live without him now.
Yeah. I think it goes in waves. I don't have teenagers yet, but I know how I was as a teenager. And the first 6 months, a year is really hard, and then 1 to 3 years is kind of this golden moment, and then 4 things change, and then before you know it, they're 7.5, and they're kicking you in the leg when you're brushing your teeth. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And he goes, who else am I supposed to kick in the house? And to me, that was like, okay, I'm a dad now. That's all there is to it. All the other stuff was fluff. This is real.
Oh, so you don't have a dog?
The human punching bag.
Aha!
Oh, yeah, look at that.
1 week
That's
old.
awesome.
Yeah, he's super.
Yeah.
Little Christian.
If he's got any comments, I'll put him up to the mic and he can kind of speak for himself.
Yeah, so are you doing everything over there? You're changing, you're feeding, you're doing everything, right? You're splitting duties here?
Well, the deal is with my bride that, hi, baby, that she will get up with him during the night and I do all the diaper changing. So she's exhausted, and then during the day, and I've been terrible. I'm only doing like 70% of the diaper changing, and she's doing 100% of the night stuff. So I think tonight I'm going to stay up with him. But yeah, I think I'm doing everything. Bride, am I? Oh, she left. Yeah, I'm going to, since she's not here to say different, yeah, I'm doing everything. All she just sits on her butt.
Hey, we are recording this, guys, so that we can send this out and let other fathers learn from our experiences. So feel free to say what you want.
In that case, my bride's the best. Wait.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Hey, Mike, do what I did, and you hear him crying, but be like, I didn't hear nothing. My stomach hurts, my head hurts.
Give away a secret, man. Yeah, I'm old. Maybe I can't hear that. You're the young, strong one. You got to go take care of all this stuff.
Hey.
Now, Mark, let me ask you this question.
What's that?
You have 3 kids. So with my first child, I got up, I did everything. I actually stopped 3 times on the way home from Cedars-Sinai Hospital because I didn't know if my son was breathing or not. That's how freaked out I was. But by the time my daughter Camille came, I was doing the same thing, like letting my wife do it. By the time the 3rd kid comes, are you just like, whatever?
3rd kid? What do you mean 3rd kid? Who's the 3rd
kid?
Yeah, and you've met that 3rd kid. So, yeah, we get pretty casual as it relates right now. Very, as a matter of fact. In fact, even the labor process gets a lot easier. And I'm pretty sure I was on the phone in the hallway when the third was being born, and I think Trish wanted me to run an errand. No. You know what it was? There was an event at the Phoenix Suns game that Trish was like, no, you know what? We had the baby. We had Caleb. And then like 3 or 4 hours later, she's like, no, you really should be there. You should go there. I said, sure. I mean, you can go there. Just come there and then come back. And I did. But it wasn't that big of a deal, you know?
Well, I learned my lesson with the first one. This guy, we outsourced him because we didn't want my poor bride to have to get pregnant. So this is an adopted guy. So yeah, she's we love her walking around with this little baby, and everyone looks at her because she's doesn't look like she just had a baby, and like, man, you look fantastic for a 1-week-old. So that's fun.
Only an entrepreneur would call adoption outsourcing.
Well, like I said, I got to tell you, when we first met the adoption mom, she gave us a little ultrasound, and we went. Natalie's mom didn't know we'd met the adoptive mom, so we took her out to dinner to show her like the little ultrasound. So Natalie orders a drink, and the guy brings the whatever alcoholic beverage she'd ordered. Well, Natalie's mom's got the ultrasound, and she's crying. So it looks like Natalie's pregnant and drinking. She felt awful and had to explain that, indeed, we had outsourced the whole situation.
Right on.
So guys versus girls. I got 1 or 2 more topics here. When you have boys and girls, it's hard to not treat the girl like a boy in some senses. So I've had some kind of rough experiences, especially with like training in my profession in business, where I have scheduled training days to go and work with my son in football and baseball and lifting and running. And we take my daughter on a lot of things, but if I don't invite her, even if she doesn't want to go, like most women, she's pissed and she starts to bring up the X factor. How come I don't get to do those things with you, Dad? How come you only take Cannon to do those things? So I've learned that at a pretty young age to treat them both as absolutely equal as possible, even if the other one has no intention on doing anything that the other one is doing. Marc, you want to let us know how that feels?
I'm trying to remember the quote. Man, I wish I could have it because I probably heard it on a podcast because that's where I hear everything. But it was something to the effect that it isn't fair, but it is equal. Something along those lines. But we haven't really struggled with that. I think all of our kids have different interests. I think for us, the bigger thing is actually between the 2 boys. The 2 boys want to do the same thing, and they want their own thing. And so it's been harder to be like, hey, well, if I play baseball, then I don't want you to play baseball. But you play golf, I don't want you to play golf because then it's just going to be us playing golf. So they've wanted their independence from each other, but they're 2 boys 15 months apart, whereas the girl had completely different interests. So I think I just dodged a bullet on that one. Our daughter, although being 15, it doesn't really seem like teenagerhood. And I think anytime she gets close to acting like a teenager, I say something to the effect of, if you continue to act like a teenager, then I can act like dad, the stereotypical dad. And she says, I don't want you to act like that. And I said, okay, well then don't act like the stereotypical teenager. And we just kind of have that thing where if you don't act like that, I won't act like the way I'm supposed to act, and we'll just both act how we normally are. And it just worked. It worked.
The stereotypical dad of a teenage mom. I only have 2 boys, so I don't know what it's like to have a girl. But I heard a quote, and it made me happy with my boys, that once you have a boy, you got to worry about that little penis for the rest of his life. But if you have a girl, you got to worry about every other penis in the world for the rest of her life. So I'll take the boys for the less stress.
So I've never heard that one. That's funny.
I just posted a hashtag there, AllProDad. About 6 years ago, I was looking and searching for somebody or someone to give me some daily tools. And this is a pretty cool website called AllProDad that does daily email affirmations. Tony Dungy has a big part in this company. It's a free company. Marc Merrill is another one that's involved in the startup. And it gives you just daily emails, reminders as to what you're doing and what you can do better. So I remember getting one of these about 7 years ago when I first opened my business. And it said, Dear Dad, are you at home? Are you spending quality time? Are you putting your daughters first? Because one day, if you're not there, somebody else will be. And I packed it up, drove straight home, and that's always been my mindset first now is, the boys, we're guys, right? We're not perfect, but when shit gets tough, like, we can find that independence, we can handle it. But with girls, they need that independence. Sometimes they need to grab onto somebody, and it's me, it's dad, at least for a long time, at least for as long as I hopefully can hold on to her for. But
yeah, it'll probably be a long time.
Yeah, it's like the shotgun sign, right? Dear, what does it say? Dear so-and-so, if you come to pick up my daughter from your house, my dad has a shotgun, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Tattoos and shotguns. That's pretty much it. I'll try to scare most of these guys off. All right, guys, I got to get back to work here out on the training floor. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate this. I hate that I came in a little bit late, but this is good, man. You don't get a lot of fathers having these discussions, so it's good to hear what other folks are doing, what other fathers are doing, and I appreciate it, man. Keep doing them.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Thanks, Joe. Mike, keep your daydream. We don't even know who you are up there in the top right. Thanks for joining in, guys. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
See ya.